How we doing? How we doing? This is Destination Denver, Colorado, and today, why is everyone moving to Lakewood, Colorado? Well, let's dive into it, starting right now. All right, this is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everts, and listener, if you're interested in learning all the ins and outs, pros and cons to moving to or around Denver, Colorado, then this is a channel for you. So that subscribe button and notification icon you see on your screen, make sure you click on that as I'm dropping new videos for you each and every week. And as much as I try to be a little informative here on camera, I'm also a licensed mortgage broker covering the entire state of Colorado and team with some of the Front Range's most talented realtors. And we are helping people move here each and every day. So that number and email you see on your screen, know that I'm always the person answering your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails, there, winning if you need me. Now that we're done with that fun-filled stuff, let's get to what we're here for, and that is, why is everyone moving to Lakewood, Colorado? All right, so if you're new to the channel or you haven't seen another video about Lakewood, you may not be aware, I was born and raised in Lakewood, left for the military for 8 years, another 4 years in broadcast journalism, and then somehow or other managed to end up back not too far away from where I grew up. So there are going to be parts of this video where you might say, he's a homer, he's biased. Possibly. That still doesn't mean that anything I tell you here isn't true, even if it comes from the perspective of someone who enjoys this town. So Lakewood is located on the western side of Denver. The east side of Lakewood borders Denver, and then as you get to the west side of Denver, you get into towns like Golden and Morrison, and you get up into the mountains. So Lakewood was originally farmland. First take on this video, I said they started to make farms in the late 1900s. That was pretty recent. Now, in 1899, Lakewood started developing farmland, a lot of ranchers here. And then in 1969, the city became incorporated. And you'll see with Lakewood, the closer you get to Denver, the farther east in Lakewood you go, the older the communities are, the older the homes tend to be. And what Lakewood did was it slowly, in these curves, built newer and newer neighborhoods. And so you get closer to Denver, then you get into neighborhoods like Green Mountain, which is specifically where I grew up, a very popular community now that we'll talk about later. And then you get farther away into neighborhoods like Solterra. And we'll talk about that development where you'll see these rings, these pockets of homes built in a certain time frame. And today, Lakewood is the 5th largest city in Colorado. Now, I would say typically that would mean you're thinking pretty large, but Colorado is not a state filled with massive cities. So you've got Denver, you've got Colorado Springs, the 3rd largest is Aurora, and then everything else for the most part, like Lakewood's population sits in the 155,000-ish range. So you're not talking about this major metropolis. One thing about Lakewood though is, geographically speaking, it's huge. I mean, it stretches again all the way from Denver over to Golden, Morrison, Front Range, and goes north all the way up to Wheat Ridge, Arvada areas, and down to Littleton. It's a very large suburb. Within that, you've got some really cool neighborhoods to explore. Some of the more popular you're going to find is Belmar, which is basically where I live essentially. Belmar, we're going to talk about the fact that Lakewood doesn't have a downtown. It's one of the knocks that it gets from time to time. Belmar is kind of the closest thing we have. It's a large walking mall, all your shops, restaurants, the things you need. And within Belmar, they built townhomes, condos, and across from that, your single family home. So a lot of options within Belmar, and one of the more popular communities. Is it truly a downtown? Again, I would say no, but some people would say it's really the closest thing we have to it. The second neighborhood, and that's where you can say I'm a homer, because I live in Belmar and I grew up in Green Mountain. So Green Mountain is about 10 minutes west of me, and truly right on the Front Range. So Green Mountain, as the name describes, is the mountain that this whole community grows into. And Green Mountain was really developed in the 70s going into the early 80s. That's when most of the homes in that community were built. There was a builder called Hutchinson at the time that built most of these homes, so you see similar designs. And Green Mountain, humorously enough, has become one of the most popular areas in the Denver metro for people looking for homes. I've helped a lot of people buy homes in that neighborhood, and it's funny to hear over the last 3, 4, 5 years the momentum build there where people are buying homes minutes from where I grew up, homes I used to walk by as a kid. So Green Mountain, definitely a great place. Lots of parks, great neighborhoods, really suburban though, whereas Belmar has shops and walkability, Green Mountain, not so much. To the north of us, still within Lakewood, is a neighborhood called Applewood. Applewood, again, extremely desirable, has been for a long time, all sorts of different types of homes there. And Applewood is one of the few communities in Lakewood, we'll talk about this when we get to developments, where you'll see some newer construction, or you'll see some homes that have either been redesigned, redeveloped, or they flat out been knocked down and some, brand new home has been built on top of it. Applewood, it tends to be at a higher price point than most areas of Lakewood for that desirability. You don't necessarily see a lot of homes come for sale in that neighborhood, but if you're talking about the best neighborhoods in Lakewood, Applewood is consistently going to be named within that group. And the last one I'd mention here, and really the area where you're going to see the most newer development in Lakewood, is Solterra. So I'm going to age myself here. Growing up as a young kid, Solterra was nothing but fields and woods where me and my friends would play. And now it's this huge community of homes that started to be built in the early 2000s. You continue to see development there. It continues to stretch. So near Solterra, you have a great view of the Front Range, and you don't really hear C-470 necessarily, but there's a highway that runs not too far from Solterra, and so they continue to develop down this stretch of roads with more homes, townhomes, condos, you name it, in there. Solterra is where you are going to find some of the nicest homes in Lakewood, without a doubt. Beautiful places. Personally, my wife and I, we looked at moving there at a time. The homes are a bit closer together, not all, but some of the homes are closer together. Your property taxes, specifically in Solterra, will be higher because it's a newer development. So they gotta pay for roads and things like that, and certain houses will have HOA. So unlike a lot of areas in Lakewood where you might not run into that, Solterra is going to be pretty specific. It's an incredible place, and help plenty of people buy homes in that community. It's just going to be unique as far as the price point, location, cost, all of those things. Solterra is going to be different than just about any other location in Lakewood. Now, as far as things to do in Lakewood, Belmar is going to capture a couple of the bigger ones. You got the Lakewood Cultural Center, you got the Heritage Center. There in Belmar Park is the Heritage Center. A lot of really cool things to explore within that park. Certainly you have Belmar, where you're going to go for your shopping, things of that nature. And then I have to mention, as far as things to do in Lakewood, so many of them are outdoors, so I'm kind of skip to a lot of our outdoor activities, but we're 10 to 15 minutes from Red Rocks. Red Rocks is in Morrison. Lakewood can't take credit for it, but we can't take credit for having the very unique ability to get to Red Rocks pretty quickly. And it's funny, we're so close to it. There are plenty of times where, if you're living anywhere in that region, you can hear Red Rocks at certain times. There used to be a racetrack called Bandimere not far from there that used to drive people nuts for being able to hear that. But that's gone now, so you don't have to worry about Bandimere. What does that have to do with Red Rocks? I have no idea. Little mental detour. But Red Rocks is one of the most, if not the most incredible outdoor amphitheater, natural amphitheater in the world. It's consistently world ranked. And it's within, I would say, easily 10 to 15 to maybe 20 minutes of any location that you live in Lakewood. So we got that going for us. But really, if we're going to talk about Lakewood, we have to talk about the parks. That is what Lakewood is really known for, one of the things it is really known for. We like to say we have 100 parks, kind of like Denver likes to say we get 300 days of sunshine. Not exactly right. We have 99 parks. Amongst those, you have Bear Creek Lake Park, great area, really close to hikes. You've got a couple lakes there, Bear Creek Lake, you got Soda Lake, very cool area year-round to explore. You also have some golf courses right there in that region, so Bear Creek Lake Park is going to be among the more popular. I mentioned Green Mountain, William Frederick Hayden Park, thousands of acres along Green Mountain, trails. It's great for mountain biking. I'll go up there with my mountain bike and pedal down. It's great for hiking, getting a walk. It's not a really tough mountain necessarily, so you may call it like an outdoor walk more than a hike in certain areas. Does get some rattlesnakes in the summertime. Be on the lookout for those. I haven't been bit before, but I've gotten close enough to hear them a few times. That's never fun. William Frederick Hayden Park. Every time I say it, we call it Green Mountain. Any local just says, go to Green Mountain. Tons of trails, great things to do. And then, within these parks, you just have super quick access to getting into the mountains, to enjoying yourself. When I talk to people about living in Lakewood, one of the best parts to me about it is the fact that you are nestled between the city, where you can get down there for your concerts and your dinners and your sporting events, and then you have the mountains right there. So you're quick to hikes and camping and getting up to your ski lifts, whatever you want to do. Lakewood really blends to whatever you enjoy out of life. It's one of the best suburbs in Denver for that. And, Lakewood, I don't think we were big on this for a while, but it's getting better as far as its community events. Among my favorite is Cider Days, which, again, right next to us here in Belmar Park. They'll do that one weekend out of the year. Just a ton of cider. You get the big, turkey leg where it looks like you're in Game of Thrones or something like that. Great day for that. There is Sounds Exciting. Sounds Exciting, does. That's a concert series here in Lakewood. During Christmas, they have had lighting of Belmar Park. As you can see, a lot happens around Belmar. I have to admit, I'm saying it because I hope they bring it back. This past year, they didn't have it. It was the first year in several years that they didn't have. They had some lights, but they didn't have tours going through it. Really cool thing, but something to, hopefully that returns. And then farmers markets, which I'm a fan of anywhere, and there's farmers markets all over Denver, so I'm not here to say that Lakewoods are better or worse than others, but several farmers markets. I think that is an area that Lakewood could probably improve in. I think we could do more community events that kind of gather people together. There is a very cool Italian festival. I'm almost embarrassing myself. My mother, if she watches this video, is going to be angry at me for not acknowledging the fact that there's a pretty cool Italian festival. And coincidentally, it's also in Belmar. So you're gonna have a really tough time finding these things because they're all in the same place. From an education standpoint, Lakewood is serviced by Jefferson County Schools. Overall, gets pretty good ratings when you look at Better Schools, when you look at niche.com, some of these other websites. I try to tell people, you're gonna wanna do your due diligence when it comes to schools. I live in an area, when we bought our house, specifically, the other people that passed on it did so because they didn't think that the schools nearby were up to their standards. My wife and I have had no issues as we raise a baby. She's 8 months, so we're a little early for school, but we've had no issues finding schools at all ages that are going to be within 10 to 15 minutes of us tops. So when it comes to schools, I think you'll be within range of some great ones. Lakewood has some excellent options. Also in Lakewood, you have Colorado Christian University and you have Red Rocks Community College. So you have some local options as far as higher education, both very well respected, very well regarded. And I should mention Warren Tech. So we have a great tech school, plumbing, electricians, barbers, cooks, chefs, you name it. Shouldn't say cooks, chefs, my apologies. But just a great school for that. A great center to check out. So as far as education in Lakewood, again, a lot of options, highly rated, dedicated, strong community for that. And the last thing I wanted to talk about was kind of current events and new developments in Lakewood, new developments as far as construction. So one big thing that I get asked all the time, is Lakewood a sanctuary city? There's no such thing officially as a sanctuary city. Lakewood has been very clear on their stance that they are not going to be any type of sanctuary city. They are exploring ways of helping people in need. No question there. There's been some big community events. The city council meeting back in February was packed. I don't think I've ever seen a city council meeting with more people there, making sure that, decisions are being made to protect residents of Lakewood, but also do what we can for people in need that are coming to this country. So the answer to, are we a sanctuary city? No. Are there plans to make Lakewood a sanctuary city? City council members, including many that I know, have said no. So stay tuned for that. But I get a lot of comments on that, and that identifying us as that is inaccurate. I do think Lakewood has a big heart though. I like some of the things they're doing in general. I will say that. And then the last thing, because I've talked a lot about this in older videos. So Lakewood currently has what they call the 1% rule. This was passed, I want to say back in 2019. And that stated that the total number of new homes built in Lakewood could not surpass 1% of the total amount of homes that were already constructed. Essentially, it was a limit on growth. And there's other communities. Golden still has a similar rule. Boulder has some level of that rule. Lakewood has decided to repel. They've decided to remove that rule. Now, it hasn't been done yet. That will not be completely removed until at some point in 2026. But that's pretty big news, because one challenge, among others, that Lakewood has is that it has a lack of new development. I mentioned that there's limited new construction in Lakewood. If you are the type that wants to see brand new communities, brand new neighborhoods, brand new builds, Lakewood doesn't have that. They just don't. The Solterra is kind of the only new construction area, and even that is, closing in on 20 years since the area as a whole was brand new. So now, will this change everything? No, because there's only so much room in Lakewood. You're butted up against Denver on one side, and you have, the mountains in certain circumstances to your west. So Lakewood will always have some struggle to grow, and it's going to protect its parks and its natural resource. That's been important to Lakewood for, again, 125 years. That's not going to stop now, but hopefully pulling away that 1% rule will allow some more builders to get in here, create some new developments, townhomes, apartments, homes for a variety of people. So I believe that's good news for growth. We'll see how that turns out. We're still, as I mentioned, a couple, 2-3 years out from that occurring. But hey, what do I know? I've only spent 30 plus years here in Lakewood, and I still love it. Take that for what it is. In the meantime, that's a perfect opportunity to hit me up with all your questions about Lakewood or anywhere else. The number and email you see on your screen, know that I'm always the person. Answer your phone calls, answer your texts, answer your emails. There, when and if you need me. This is Destination Denver, Colorado. I'm your host, Jimmy Everts. That was Why is Everyone Moving to Lakewood, Colorado? Until I see you next time, peace.